The galaxy had a way of reminding people exactly how small they were. Jace Orion learned that lesson almost every day. At that moment, he was learning it while being shot at. Bright plasma bolts streaked past the cockpit of his aging freighter, the Vagabond, illuminating the darkness of space in flashes of blue and red. The ship rattled violently. Warning alarms screamed from every direction. Jace gripped the controls tighter. "Come on, old girl," he muttered. "Just hold together a little longer." The Vagabond wasn't much to look at. The paint was faded. The engines were older than most of the colonies Jace visited. Half the systems only worked because he threatened them regularly. But she was fast. And right now, fast was exactly what he needed. Another plasma blast streaked past the ship. The starboard shields flickered. A warning message appeared. Shield integrity 23%. That's not ideal. The voice of his ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. Your definition of ideal appears to differ significantly from reality. Jace rolled his eyes. Not helping, Nova. I estimate a 72% chance of catastrophic destruction within the next 7 minutes. Definitely not helping. The pursuing ships were gaining. 3 pirate interceptors. Fast, aggressive, and unfortunately for Jace, heavily armed. The pirates had been chasing him for nearly an hour after a cargo exchange on the edge of the Perseus Expanse had gone spectacularly wrong. Jace preferred not to dwell on exactly how wrong. The short version involved counterfeit credits, an angry crime syndicate, and someone accidentally releasing a cage full of genetically modified reptiles inside a casino. In his defense, only one of those things had been his fault. "Incoming missile," Nova announced. Jace sighed dramatically. "Of course there is." He jerked the controls. The Vagabond rolled hard to port. The missile shot past the cockpit before detonating in the darkness behind them. The resulting explosion illuminated the pirate ships. Their engines burned like angry stars. "They're persistent. The bounty currently placed upon your capture is 600,000 credits." Jace blinked. 600,000. The amount increased 42 minutes ago. I'm weirdly flattered. You should not be. Jace checked the navigation display. Nothing nearby. No stations, no colonies, no military patrols, no help. Just empty space stretching forever in every direction. Then another signal appeared on the scanner. Jace frowned. "What's that?" Nova processed the transmission. "Long-range distress beacon detected." Jace groaned immediately. "No." The beacon repeated. A burst of static followed by a desperate voice. "This is civilian transport, Aurora. We are under attack. Multiple casualties. Requesting immediate assistance." Repeat. "Requesting immediate assistance." Jace stared at the transmission. Somewhere in the darkness, a ship was dying. He didn't need this. He really didn't. He already had 3 pirates trying to vaporize him. Helping strangers ranked extremely low on his list of survival strategies. "Nova." "Yes?" "Tell me someone else is closer." There was a brief pause. "Negative." Jace closed his eyes. Of course. The universe hated him. That was the only explanation. "Course correction," he said, redirecting toward distress signal. Nova sounded almost surprised. "You are choosing to help. Don't sound so shocked. Statistically speaking, this decision is extremely irrational." Jace smiled faintly. "That's what makes it mine." The Vagabond altered course. Behind them, the pirate ships followed immediately. 30 minutes later, the Aurora appeared on sensors. Jace's stomach tightened. The vessel was enormous, a luxury transport liner nearly 3 kilometers long. the kind used by wealthy diplomats, politicians, and royalty. Fires burned along multiple decks. Hull breaches scarred its surface. Sections of the ship drifted away as debris fields. That's bad. An accurate assessment. Jace approached carefully. Sensor readings revealed several unidentified attack craft surrounding the liner. They weren't pirates. Their formation was too disciplined, their movements too precise. Whoever attacked the Aurora knew exactly what they were doing. Military? Jace asked. Negative. No identifiable markings. Jace frowned. That bothered him more than if they had been military. Unmarked ships usually meant professionals, the dangerous kind. One of the attackers suddenly turned toward the vagabond. Well, Jace muttered. Looks like they noticed us. Weapons fire erupted. Jace slammed the engines forward. The vagabond accelerated hard. Plasma blasts flashed past the hull. This keeps happening. The common denominator appears to be you. Rude. Jace guided the ship directly toward the damaged liner. The attackers opened fire again. One shot clipped the stern. The entire ship shook. Hull damage detected. Add it to the collection. Jace gritted his teeth. The Aurora filled the viewport. Emergency lights flashed across its damaged hull. Escape pods drifted through space. Many were destroyed. Others appeared empty. Then Jace spotted something strange. A private docking section near the rear of the vessel remained sealed. Unlike the rest of the ship, it had suffered almost no damage. Nova. I see it. Interesting? Extremely. Jace smiled. Let's take a look. He maneuvered toward the docking bay. The attackers immediately changed course. Suddenly, they weren't targeting the liner anymore. They were targeting him. Well, that's suspicious. Agreed. The realization hit him instantly. Whatever those attackers wanted was inside that docking section. And now Jace was heading straight toward it. The bay doors opened just enough for the vagabond to slip inside. Moments later, they slammed shut behind him. Silence returned. Jace released a long breath. Okay. He stood from the pilot's chair. This is where I make another terrible decision. Nova considered this. Your consistency is admirable. Jace grabbed his blaster and headed toward the airlock. The Aurora's interior was eerily quiet. Emergency lights cast long shadows through luxurious hallways lined with gold trim and crystal panels. The silence felt wrong. Too quiet. Too empty. Jace moved carefully. Signs of fighting were everywhere. Burn marks, broken doors, blood. Whoever attacked this ship had been thorough. Then he heard something. Footsteps, very faint. Ahead. Jace followed the sound deeper into the vessel. The corridor opened into an enormous observation chamber overlooking the stars. And there she was. A woman stood near the shattered viewport, shielding a small child behind her. She held an elegant energy pistol with surprising confidence. Silver markings glowed faintly beneath her skin. Long white gold hair flowed over her shoulders. Her eyes locked onto Jace immediately. Brilliant violet, beautiful, dangerous, exhausted. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then she raised the weapon directly at him. Take one more step and I'll shoot you. Jace froze. Okay. He slowly raised his hands. Not exactly the welcome I was hoping for. The woman studied him carefully. Who are you? Jace Orion. Never heard of you. Honestly, that's usually a good sign. Her weapon remained steady. Are you one of them? Depends who them is. The assassins. Jace blinked. Assassins? For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face. Then distant explosions echoed through the ship. The woman glanced toward the sound. Fear flashed across her features. Real fear. Not for herself, for the child behind her. That's when Jace realized something important. Whoever this woman was, the attackers hadn't destroyed an entire luxury liner just to kill passengers. They were hunting her. And judging by the size of the fleet outside, she was someone very important indeed. For several seconds, neither Jace nor the woman moved. The observation chamber remained silent, except for the distant groan of the damaged ship. The child behind her couldn't have been older than 8. He clutched the woman's arm tightly, his wide eyes fixed on Jace. The woman never lowered her weapon. "Answer the question," she said. "Who are you?" Jace sighed. "I already did. Jace Orion, independent cargo operator." "You're a smuggler." "That's a very judgmental way to phrase it." The woman's expression didn't change. "Why are you here?" "Your distress signal." "You answered it?" "Against my better judgment." For the first time, something resembling surprise crossed her face. Before either could continue, a distant explosion rattled the chamber. The child flinched. The woman immediately stepped in front of him protectively. Jace noticed the movement. Whoever she was, her first instinct wasn't self-preservation. It was protecting the kid. Another explosion echoed through the corridor, this one much closer. The woman's expression hardened. "They're here," Jace frowned. "The assassins?" She nodded. "They've been hunting us for hours." "Us?" The child peeked around her shoulder. "They're going to kill everyone." Jace exchanged a glance with the woman. "Okay, that's not great." Suddenly, a loud metallic crash echoed from the corridor outside. Footsteps followed, multiple sets, fast, organized, approaching. Jace immediately drew his blaster. The woman's weapon remained raised. "Friends of yours?" she asked. "My friends usually try to rob me first." The first assassin appeared seconds later. Black armor, featureless helmet, military-grade weaponry. Without hesitation, he opened fire. Energy bolts tore through the observation chamber. Glass exploded. Furniture shattered. Jace dove behind a support column. "Definitely not my friends!" The woman fired back immediately. Her aim was frighteningly accurate. One of the attackers collapsed before he could react. Jace peeked around cover and squeezed off 2 shots. Another assassin fell. The remaining attackers advanced without hesitation. "They're professionals," Jace shouted. "I noticed." "Any helpful information you forgot to mention?" "Quite a lot, actually." "Fantastic." More gunfire erupted. The chamber transformed into chaos. The child remained hidden behind cover while Jace and the woman fought side by side. Despite never meeting before today, they worked surprisingly well together. Jace covered angles she couldn't see. She anticipated attacks before they happened. Within minutes, the surviving assassins retreated into the corridor. Silence returned. For now. Jace checked the charge level on his weapon. "They're regrouping." "Yes." "I'm guessing this happens often?" "Not usually on this scale." The woman finally lowered her weapon slightly. "We need to leave." "I agree. My shuttle is inaccessible." Jace smirked. "Good thing I brought my own ship." The child looked hopeful. "Can we really escape?" Jace crouched beside him. "Kid, I've escaped situations much worse than this." Nova's voice suddenly crackled through his communicator. "That statement is factually inaccurate." Jace rolled his eyes. "Not helping." The child laughed despite everything. The sound surprised all 3 of them. It was the first moment of normalcy since the fighting began. The woman looked at Jace differently afterward. Not with trust. Not yet. But perhaps with slightly less suspicion. They hurried through the damaged corridors. Fires burned throughout several sections of the ship. Emergency lights flashed overhead. Crew members and passengers were nowhere to be seen. Most had likely evacuated hours ago. Others had not been as fortunate. The deeper they traveled, the more evidence of the battle appeared. Destroyed security drones, scorch marks, bodies. Whoever orchestrated this attack had committed enormous resources. Jace couldn't stop wondering why. They reached a maintenance junction connecting to the docking section. Jace relaxed slightly. Good news. What? The woman asked. The vagabond should be right through that door. The door exploded inward. Everyone hit the floor. Smoke filled the corridor. A massive armored figure stepped through the wreckage. Unlike the other assassins, this one wore silver armor reinforced with combat plating. A long energy blade glowed in his hand. The woman immediately froze. Genuine fear appeared in her eyes. Jace noticed instantly. You know him? Her voice became quiet. Unfortunately. The armored warrior pointed the blade toward her. Princess Seraphine. Jace blinked. Princess. The warrior ignored him. Your flight ends here. Jace slowly looked toward the woman. Princess? She avoided eye contact. This may not be the best time. You're a princess? Another assassin entered behind the warrior. Then another. Then another. Jace groaned. Actually, you're right. Terrible time. The warrior advanced. Surrender, Your Highness. The woman, apparently Princess Seraphine, raised her weapon. No. You cannot escape. Jace checked the corridor behind them. More enemies were approaching. They were trapped. Unless... He smiled suddenly. Seraphine frowned. Why are you smiling? Because I just had a terrible idea. That does not sound encouraging. It never is. Jace fired 3 shots at a nearby control panel. Sparks erupted. Alarms screamed. Massive emergency bulkheads began descending throughout the corridor. The assassins immediately rushed forward. Jace grabbed Seraphine's wrist. Run! The child didn't need convincing. Together they sprinted through the maintenance tunnels as heavy steel barriers crashed down behind them. Angry shouts echoed through the ship. The assassins were delayed, not stopped, but delayed. Princess? Jace asked while running. Later. Princess? Later. You realize that's a very important detail. So is surviving. Fair point. They finally burst into the docking bay. The vagabond waited exactly where Jace had left her. Beautiful, reliable, slightly on fire near one engine. Home. Jace smiled. There she is. Seraphine stared at the ship. That vessel looks dangerous. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. The docking bay alarms suddenly intensified. More enemy forces were approaching. Jace opened the boarding ramp. Everybody inside. The child ran aboard immediately. Seraphine hesitated for only a moment before following. Behind them, the first assassins appeared at the far end of the bay. Energy bolts flashed through the darkness. Jace sprinted up the ramp. The moment the hatch sealed, he raced for the cockpit. Nova greeted him immediately. Welcome back. Your survival remains statistically surprising. Missed you too. The engines roared to life. Outside, dozens of attackers opened fire. The vagabond lifted from the deck and blasted toward the damaged docking doors. Please tell me you have a plan, Seraphine said from behind him. Jace grinned. Absolutely not. The ship exploded into open space as weapons fire followed close behind. The chase had begun. And for the first time, Jace Orion found himself transporting something far more dangerous than illegal cargo. He was transporting a runaway princess, and judging by the fleet gathering around the Aurora, half the galaxy wanted her back. The moment the Vagabond cleared the Aurora's docking bay, every alarm on the ship erupted simultaneously. Jace dropped into the pilot's chair and immediately regretted looking at the sensor display. That's a lot of ships. Nova processed the data for less than a second. Current count, 14 hostile vessels. Jace stared. 14. The number is increasing. Of course it is. Plasma fire lit up the darkness around them. The Vagabond accelerated hard as enemy ships poured out of the damaged liner. Whoever wanted Princess Seraphine was no longer interested in subtlety. They wanted results. Jace slammed the throttle forward. The ship surged through a storm of weapons fire. Behind him, Seraphine steadied herself against the bulkhead. The child sat strapped into a jump seat, trying very hard not to look terrified. "You should have left us," Seraphine said quietly. Jace glanced back. "Bit late for that now. You don't understand what's happening. That's becoming increasingly obvious." Another blast struck the shields. The entire ship shook violently. Warning lights flashed red across the cockpit. Nova spoke calmly. "Shield integrity at 52%. "Good news?" Jace asked. "No." "Thought so." The enemy vessels tightened their formation. Jace recognized the maneuver immediately. Encirclement, professional, coordinated, expensive. He didn't like any of those words. "Princess," he said, "I think it's time for an explanation." Seraphine remained silent for several seconds. Finally, she sighed. "I am Seraphine Valor, first daughter of Emperor Kalis Valor of the Aurelian Empire." Jace nearly missed a turn. "You're serious?" "Very." "As in actual royalty?" "Yes." "As in palace royalty?" "Yes." "As in billions of citizens royalty?" Jace. "Right, sorry." The truth settled heavily over the cockpit. Suddenly, the luxury liner made sense. The assassins made sense. The military-grade equipment made sense. What didn't make sense was why she was here. "Why are they chasing you?" Jace asked. Seraphine looked out the viewport. Stars reflected in her violet eyes. "Because I ran away." Jace blinked. "You what?" 3 weeks ago, my father arranged a political marriage." "That sounds unpleasant." "The marriage would unite 2 empires." "And?" Her expression darkened. "And nobody asked what I wanted." For the first time since meeting her, Jace saw something beyond confidence and intelligence. He saw exhaustion, loneliness, the kind that came from spending years trapped inside expectations. "So you fled?" Seraphine nodded. "I thought I could disappear." Nova interrupted. "Hostile lock acquired." Jace immediately returned his attention to flying. "Talk later, survival now." Missiles streaked toward them. Jace rolled the Vagabond sideways. Explosions flashed behind the ship. The pirates from earlier had somehow reappeared as well. Apparently everyone in the sector had decided to ruin his day. "This is becoming personal." "You say that every week," Nova replied. Jace frowned. "Fair." The sensor display suddenly flashed. A large asteroid field appeared ahead. Dense, chaotic, dangerous. Jace smiled. "Now we're talking." Seraphine immediately recognized that smile. "Why do I suddenly feel nervous?" "Because you're learning." The Vagabond plunged directly into the asteroid field. Massive rocks drifted through space like floating mountains. Enemy ships followed immediately. Jace weaved between them at impossible speeds. Alarms screamed continuously. The child gripped his seat so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Is he always like this?" Seraphine asked. Nova answered before Jace could. "Unfortunately." Jace banked hard around a spinning asteroid. 2 pursuing fighters collided behind them. Fire erupted across the darkness. "See?" he said proudly. Working perfectly. A larger asteroid suddenly appeared directly ahead. Seraphine's eyes widened. Jace, I see it. Jace, I definitely see it. Jace! At the last possible moment, the vagabond slipped through a narrow gap. The asteroid missed them by meters. Behind them, another pursuing ship wasn't as fortunate. The impact lit up the field like a miniature star. Finally, the remaining attackers broke pursuit. The asteroid field was too dangerous, too unpredictable, too expensive. Silence returned to the cockpit. Jace leaned back and exhaled. There. Easy. Easy? Seraphine stared at him. We almost died 12 times. Only 12? Nova paused. The actual number was 17. Jace pointed at the dashboard. Nobody asked you. Hours later, the vagabond drifted through deep space while repairs slowly restored damaged systems. The child, whose name turned out to be Milo, had finally fallen asleep. Seraphine sat quietly near the observation window. Jace joined her carrying 2 cups of coffee. She accepted one cautiously. This is the terrible human drink. The very one. She took a sip, her face immediately twisted. It's somehow worse than I imagined. Jace laughed. You'll get used to it. For the first time since boarding the ship, Seraphine smiled without reservation. The expression transformed her. She seemed younger, freer, less like royalty and more like a normal woman trying to figure out her future. Thank you, she said quietly. Jace looked surprised. For what? For helping us, he shrugged. Didn't seem right to leave you there. Most people would have. Most people are smarter than me. Seraphine laughed softly. The sound lingered between them longer than either expected. For a moment, neither spoke. The stars drifted silently outside. Then Seraphine reached into a small pouch hanging from her belt. There is something else. She removed a small metallic cylinder, ancient, intricate, covered in strange symbols. Jace immediately frowned. What's that? I'm not entirely sure. The cylinder projected a beam of light into the air. A holographic star map appeared above them. Thousands of stars illuminated the cabin. Routes and coordinates stretched across unknown regions of space. Jace stared in amazement. Where did you get this? My mother gave it to me before she died. The hologram shifted. One location began glowing brighter than the others. Deep beyond explored space, deep beyond civilization, deep beyond safety. Nova analyzed the projection. Her response came immediately. Cross-reference complete. Jace turned toward the display. What is it? There was a brief pause. Then Nova spoke. The coordinates correspond to a legendary site referenced in thousands of historical records. Jace felt a chill. Which site? The holographic marker pulsed brighter. Nova answered. The Crown of Solara. Silence filled the room. Even Seraphine seemed unsettled by the name. Jace had heard the stories growing up. Every smuggler had, every explorer, every treasure hunter. The crown wasn't supposed to exist. It was a myth, a fairy tale, a legend older than most civilizations. Supposedly, it was an artifact capable of changing the balance of power across the entire galaxy. You're saying the map leads there? Jace asked. Probability, 92%. Seraphine stared at the projection. Then that's why they're hunting me. Jace nodded slowly. Suddenly, everything made sense. The assassins, the attacks, the relentless pursuit. Someone believed she possessed the key to finding the crown, and someone was willing to kill thousands to obtain it. Before anyone could speak again, a new alert appeared. Nova's voice became unusually serious. Multiple long-range signatures detected. Jace immediately stood. How many? Approximately 83 vessels. Seraphine's expression darkened. 83? Correction. Nova paused. 87. Jace rushed toward the cockpit display. The sensor screen filled with contacts, warships, interceptors, carriers, an entire fleet, and they were heading directly toward the Vagabond. At the center of the formation appeared a transmission request. A face emerged on the screen. A young man wearing royal armor, calm, confident, dangerous. Seraphine immediately went pale. "Who is that?" Jace asked. Her answer came barely above a whisper. "Prince Valen." The man's eyes settled directly on her. Then he smiled, not warmly, not kindly, like a hunter finally spotting his prey. "Hello, Seraphine." The transmission ended. Jace stared at the approaching fleet. 87 warships, 1 aging freighter, 1 runaway princess, 1 legendary map. He slowly rubbed his face. "You know," he said, "I have a feeling tomorrow is going to be complicated." The fleet continued advancing through the darkness, and somewhere beyond the edge of known space, the crown of Solara waited.